Okay.
All right, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today on our Google Plus Penguin Awareness Day Hangout on Air, live from the Minnesota Zoo. We're all really excited to have you guys joining us today. We're really excited to talk about some really cool animals, obviously penguins, since it's Penguin Awareness Day. And we have a few special guests with us today. We have actually a 8th grade class from the Nellie McClung Public School in Canada. If you guys can go ahead and wave. Thank you guys for joining us, and we also have a class from Hawaii, which is really cool. We're really excited to have a class from the Kalani High School. If you guys can go ahead and wave, we're really excited for you guys to join us too, especially since we'll be getting Hawaiian monk seals here at the Minnesota Zoo this summer, so we're really excited to have you guys on. We're also going to be joined by a couple of experts we have here at the Minnesota Zoo. Their names are Becky and Sandy, and they're two of our penguin keepers here. So if you guys can go ahead and say hey to everyone. Hi. And you know what? It's Penguin Awareness Day, so why don't we go ahead and just get started. Becky and Sandy, why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about penguins, sort of the penguins we have here at the zoo, and some fun facts about them.
Okay. Welcome to the Minnesota Zoo. This is our kitchen, our penguin kitchen, and that's where we're standing right now. And I'm thinking I'd rather be in Hawaii, but here we are in Minnesota, and welcome. We do have 30 penguins here at the Minnesota Zoo right now. In that group, we have 12 male or 12 boy penguins and 18 female or 18 girl penguins. In that mix, we have 10 penguin chicks. We were fortunate last year that we had 12 penguins hatch here at the Minnesota Zoo, and 10 of them are still with us. 2 of them got shipped to Minot. They actually are in Minot enjoying that zoo right now, and we have 10 of those chicks are still with us here at the Minnesota Zoo. Becky now is holding our youngest chick. This is, I'm trying to think of her number. She is 13787. Or we call her Indy. And her nickname is Indy Button because of the spots on her breast feathers. Every African penguin has unique spots on their breast feathers, and Indy's happen to be right in a row, and it makes it real easy to pick her out in the group.
That's great.
Yeah, or where you want to go.
Perfect. So what I really like, what you just said there, Sandy. Obviously, penguins, they're really awesome. They're really cute. But I loved that actually last year, 2 years ago, what did you say? We had 12 penguin chicks hatch out here at the Minnesota Zoo, and I think that's really important for people to know because baby animals, of course, they're really cute, and everyone loves them, but they're really important for the wild populations, and I know that Becky here actually has some first-hand experience at penguin conservation.
Yep, I was fortunate enough to get a grant to go over to South Africa. There's an organization called SANCOB, which stands for South African Foundation for the Conservation of Coastal Birds. And what they're doing is they're collecting chicks that have been abandoned by the adults, and they raise them up to about 4 months of age, and then they re-release them back to the beaches where they were taken. It is a lot of work, a lot of energy. I spent almost 2 weeks working with them, and it's an important thing that we're doing for conservation out there for the African penguin.
Awesome. And Becky, speaking of wild African penguins, a lot of the things that conservation agencies do are very hands-on, but they're hands-on to a very specific group of people. They're hands-on to people like you who are really knowledgeable and experts at these birds. But there are a lot of things I think that people can do, and maybe they don't know they can do, to help save these birds in the wild. Are there any tips that you guys have?
Yep. So this is an endangered species. In 2011, they were uplisted from threatened to endangered. And what that means is their numbers are declining very fast. There's predictions they'll be extinct in the wild within 10 to 15 years. So it is kind of a crisis situation. There is a lot of people there working with the African penguin, doing research and trying to find ways to help them. One way that we, as the average Joe citizen, can do is, we've heard it a lot of times before, reduce, reuse, and recycle. The best energy you can use is the energy you don't use. Another thing that you can do, one of the problems that the African penguin is facing is there are not enough fish for them. They eat sardines and anchovies in the wild. So if you can buy sustainably caught fish, and what that means is fish that we take out of the wild that's not going to be taking food from other species. And also so they can reproduce and stay at a constant number to provide a food source for all the other animals out in the wild. So we have a great program here at the Minnesota Zoo. If you go to our website, you can download one of these. I don't know if you can see it. It's called the Seafood Watch. You can download one of these little cards if you want, or there's an app for your iPhone or your Android. And what it is it explains if you're going grocery shopping or you're at a restaurant and you can ask the server, where did the fish come from? And it tells you really good choices, not so good choices, and the ones you should avoid. So this is a great tool to help all the oceans out.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And I like that you mentioned the app part, primarily because there are handouts, but they're made of paper and cardboard, and so it's much easier on the environment to actually just download the app for your smartphone, whether you have an Android or an iPhone or whatever it is, because then also you're also getting the most up-to-date information too. It's much easier to update an app for your phone than it is for them to reprint, thousands and thousands of cards. So I know it sounds like we're actually having a little bit of difficulty seeing you two still. It looks like some of the schools are having some trouble. So what I'm going to do is keep throwing up some pictures of penguins that I have for you guys. But I think what we would love to do now is sort of get some questions from the students and from the audience. So if anyone has questions, now is a great time to ask questions. So teachers, why don't we go ahead and start with Kimberly's class up in Canada. We'll have you guys unmute your microphone and you can go ahead and ask your question to Becky and Sandy.
Hi, my name is Kayan, and my question is, if you were to put a penguin from Antarctica and an African coast penguin side by side, would you be able to tell that they are different? If so, what are the differences in the appearance?
Josh, can you repeat that?
Yes, so it sounds like what he's wondering is if you were to put a penguin from the Antarctica, and put it side by side with one of the African penguins, the black-footed penguins, put them side by side, what would the differences be, if there are any differences?
That's a really great question. So most penguins actually come from a warmer climate. There are 17 different species of penguins, and we all think that they come from really cold places. But the African penguin, for example, I don't know if Sandy can get Lois, but they are different. They're made for warmer climates, but they also have to go in the cold ocean. So if I had, let's say, an emperor penguin here, for one, it would be a lot bigger penguin, right? A lot heavier, because it's got to have that nice fat layer to stay nice and warm even when they're on land. These guys, on the other hand, have to deal with really warm beach temperatures when they're nesting, when they're molting. So if you notice around, this is number 13198. This is Lois. If you notice, I don't know if you can see, but around her eyes, she's missing feathers. And then also on her feet and her legs, she doesn't have any feathers. So when she gets really warm on the beach, those areas actually get really red, and what she's doing is she's increasing her blood flow to those areas, and it acts like an air conditioner. So an emperor penguin would have feathers on its legs, and there would be feathers covering every part of its body except for its beak to help keep it warm in those really cold temperatures on land. All penguins, though, have to deal with really cold water temperatures, so they have lots and lots of feathers. These guys have 70 feathers per square inch. If you put your finger, can't do it, put your finger and your thumb together and make a circle, there's 70 feathers in that small space. If I were a chicken, I'd have 20 feathers in that same space.
Wow, that's really impressive. Unfortunately, Becky, we can't see your video, so we aren't able to see the penguin examples and the live penguins that you guys
All right,
have.
well, the description was there, right?
Yep, it was there. It was perfect. So thank you guys so much for that great question. Why don't we go ahead and move now to Casey's classroom. Do you guys have any questions for penguins or about penguins?
Okay. What's me? Sorry, you want to Oh, can you do it right there? Yeah.
No, I don't want notification.
You can just get.
Wait, can you let her do it, please?
Okay, coming.
No problem.
Oh, we have so many shy people.
This is Mrs. Ota, the teacher.
Good morning. Aloha from Hawaii.
Aloha.
We have a question. We have penguins here in Hawaii in our sea life park. Would you know offhand what type of penguins were suited to Hawaii's weather? Because they're outdoors.
That is a great question. Becky or Sandy, do you happen to know that off the top of your head?
We don't know what. Oh, sorry. What's in your zoo in Hawaii?
Okay.
What type of penguin? But they can handle. Most penguins can handle warmer temperatures, except those ones that are exclusively in Antarctic. So you might notice if you go to a zoo or an aquarium and you see an exhibit with snow, and it's totally enclosed, it's very cold. Those penguins need that cold. Other penguins, like the Galapagos penguin, Humboldt, Magellanic, African, they can handle quite a bit of warmer temperature. They do need to be able to cool themselves off, and I bet you their water is probably pretty cold.
Oh, yeah, it is cold. But they're not in a refrigerated climate. They are, well, I guess it's kind of refrigerated. But it's still open air to the sunlight in Honolulu.
Perfect. Well, yeah, it sounds like a lot of the penguins they're used to, I mean, especially with the African penguins, the air temperature itself is very warm. I mean, they're in 70, 80 degree weather. It's just the water that they live in or swim in is very cold, and that's primarily due to the fact that their main food source is living in really cold water from the Antarctic. So that's a really great question. Let's go ahead and move now on to Annette's classroom. I saw that you guys are back on from Arizona. Does anyone over there have a question about penguins?
Okay. Mariana, go ahead and stand. Yep, we do.
Awesome.
Do penguins have teeth?
Do penguins have teeth? Sandy can answer that question.
You know what? Penguins are birds, so they don't have any teeth. But they have a really cool feature. They have bristles or barbs on the roof of their mouth and on their tongue. Those are real stiff features inside their mouth, and they're able to grab onto those slippery sardines or in a zoo, another type of fish, and hang on to them tight and then swallow that fish going in the right direction. So they don't have any teeth.
That was a really good question. And well, we're actually going to move right on back to Kim's classroom up in Canada for a question. So why don't you guys go ahead?
Hi, my name is Adam, and here's my question. How might the African penguin prevent itself from dangers such as a predator?
That's a great question. So how do they protect themselves from being eaten, basically, right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so penguins can swim 12 to 15 miles an hour. They can swim really fast, and they have the ability to porpoise out of the water to grab a breath of air. So as they're swimming, they can zigzag. They're really good swimmers. They actually have a pointy beak, a pointy tail. It makes them really streamlined in the water. And then if they're being chased, they can hop out, porpoise like a dolphin, grab a breath of air, and keep on going. So they, I think the biggest problem for them is when they come in and out of the ocean to get to their nesting site. That's when the Cape fur seals might be hanging out, and it would be harder for them to get away. They're not so great on land getting away from predators, but they do have a nice beak, and so they can defend themselves that way as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great question. And then we're going to move right on back to Casey's classroom if you guys have any additional questions. going to go ahead and Casey, can you go ahead and unmute your microphone?
Okay. Thank you, Josh. We have a bunch of shy ninth graders here. That's a commonality in high school. Yeah, I had a question about it's actually not about your penguins. It's about the monk seal.
Okay.
Import a monk seal here from Honolulu to your zoo.
You know what? Actually, we are getting Hawaiian monk seals here at the Minnesota Zoo, and that whole exhibit will be opening up in May. But the specific animals we're getting actually will be coming from the SeaWorld down in San Antonio. So they are actually already here on the 48 contiguous United States. So probably how they'll be coming here to the zoo and traveling will either be by plane or by large bus.
Would it be possible for us to view them this way as well?
Yeah, we'll definitely be doing a Google Hangout with the Hawaiian monk seals once they arrive. Hopefully all of our cameras work, so you guys will actually be able to see them. I know that our zookeepers with the penguins here are a little bummed because the cameras aren't working because we have so many great penguins here for you guys to see. And they have great relationships with all of the keepers, and so they're a little bummed, but hopefully these pictures will suffice for right now.
Yeah, we miss seeing the penguins. We would have liked to see them. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the great question.
Thank you.
All right, so then we're going to move back down the line to Annette's classroom over in Robson Elementary. Does anyone else have another question about penguins?
Yes, Oswald, come on up. Face that way, the camera's that way. Say good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Why are penguins black and white?
Why are they black and white?
That's a great question.
That's another really good question. Penguins are black and white. They use that as a defensive feature. You were asking how they avoid predators. That's another advantage for them, and it's a tool called counter shading. When they're swimming out on the ocean and a predator may look up at them, they'll see their bright white tummy and maybe those spots, and that really helps them blend in with the ocean, so maybe they don't see them when they're swimming on the ocean. Then another predator, if they have a predator in the air and they're looking down at the penguins from up above, same deal. They hopefully then, well, their black backs will help them blend in with the ocean color, and they won't stand out. And so that's called counter shading, and it's a defense mechanism, and that's why they're black and white.
That's an excellent question. And I wanted to share this photo really quick with you guys. If you look really closely, this is one of the penguin chicks that hatched out here at the Minnesota Zoo last year. And someone was talking about the teeth. And I think it was Becky or Sandy who was talking about the barbs that are on the top of their mouth and also on their tongue. And if you look closely, you can see, you know, the tongue and the top of the mouth of this chick. And so they even have these barbs right away when they hatch. I just wanted to make sure you guys could see a little bit of a visual since our cams aren't working terribly well today. So I think we have time for maybe one more question from each person. So why don't we go ahead and start out again with Kimberly's class.
Okay, thanks.
Hello, my name is Bardia, and my question is, how have oil spills affected penguins in the African coast?
Well, that's a really important question, and it's something that they are working on. In 2000, you might have heard of the big oil spill that happened. I think the boat's name was Treasure, and a lot of penguins actually died during that. And what they're doing to help, first of all, Sandcob, who I mentioned earlier, what I went to work with, they have a task force if it were to happen again. They're ready to handle all those penguins, and they know exactly what to do to make them healthy again. One of the problems when a penguin gets oiled and they make it all better, put it back in the ocean, it actually, the oil has affected them long term in that their reproductive or making babies doesn't work quite as well as it did before they were oiled. So it is a big problem. They're working on regulation with oil ships and things But yeah, it is a big concern for African penguins and all penguins. If there were to be another big oil spill like there was in 2000, it would probably wipe out this population of penguin.
That was an excellent question. Thank you so much for asking it.
For answering. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too. I'm glad you guys are so conservation focused and you're really worrying about how to save these guys in the wild. That's awesome. So I know that you guys have some shy ninth graders over in Hawaii, but are there any additional questions that you guys may have about penguins?
Oh yeah. Okay. Hi, I'm Alyssa, and I penguins mated for life.
Yeah, do they mate for life? That's a common question we get, and lots of things happen in the natural world, and it would be really cool if we had animals that did mate for life. It's a nice concept, but a lot of times a younger male might come in and challenge the male that's with that one female. Lots of times something might happen to one of the pairs out in the wild when they're fishing. They might be eaten by a Cape fur seal or a shark. So it does change up a lot. There's also been some studies where the female might go and visit other males to get her mate upset, and so then the testosterone increases, and so they have a better success at having babies. But there's a lot that goes on in the penguin world. It's very similar to people in a lot of respects.
Cool, thank you.
Great question. And then we'll head right back on over to Annette's classroom if you guys have a last question for our penguin experts.
Face the camera, talk who you are, say.
Hi, my name is Monroe.
Dr.
Do penguins hibernate?
I'm not sure about the question. Can you repeat that?
The question was, Sandy, do penguins hibernate?
Oh, penguins don't hibernate. That's a really good question. Here in Minnesota, we have several animals who do because the temperatures drop. The Arctic penguins, the penguins that live where it's cold and snowy, they're used to that, and they stay awake all year long, and they just adjust to the temperature variations that go along. The African penguins, their normal temperature is somewhere between 40 and 80 degrees, and they are active year-round. But that was a good question.
Yeah, that was a very excellent question. And I just wanted to throw up this really quick picture of our African penguin exhibit here, the 3M Penguins of the African Coast exhibit here at the Minnesota Zoo. I know our cameras aren't working, but this is sort of what our exhibit looks like. So if you were to come to the Minnesota Zoo, this is what our penguin exhibit looks like, and it's modeled after Boulders Beach down in South Africa. So as you can see, we have plenty of land space, and there's a lot of space that goes off to the side as well, but they obviously have a lot of water space too to sort of swim around and do what they need to do as penguins. So that's what that looks like, and it looks like we're just about out of time. So thank you everyone for joining us today. If we didn't get to your questions, or if you have additional questions about African penguins or penguins, definitely feel free to add them to the Google Plus wall for the event, and we will get to them. Or you can always tweet them to us using Penguin Awareness Day and tagging us at MNZoo. So there's lots of ways to connect with us, and we're really glad that you guys were all able to join. Thank you so much to all the schools that were able to participate with us. We want to thank you guys for taking time to hang out with all of us. And a special thank you to Becky and Sandy. You guys couldn't see them because our cameras weren't working, but there are two penguin zookeepers here at the Minnesota Zoo, and they do a really great job at caring for all of our, not just our penguins, but all of the birds that we have here at the Minnesota Zoo. So again, thank you again for joining and hanging out with us. Be sure to check back for our future Hangouts. Like I said, we will be doing one with Hawaiian monk seals in a few months when they arrive here at the zoo, and we'll be doing a few more in between with different animals that we have. So thanks again, and we look forward to hanging out with you guys again later. See you guys later. Bye.
Say thank you. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you guys.
Okay, bye.
Bye.